powerful men you ever want to see. It's got Bill Gates there. And by the way, Bill Gates is funding the Gulen movement. It's got George W. Bush on there. It's got Carlucci, Frank C. Carlucci III, former Deputy Director of Central Intelligence, Carlyle Group. It's got several billionaires, many senators, other big bankers, Verizon, the head of Verizon, who's a knight of Malta, Bruce Babico, I believe. It's got all these power brokers that are the friends of George Allen. What for? What for? Because I maintain George Allen, who is now some sort of an authority at the Reagan Memorial Library, that's where they nested him. They're waiting to bring him to power, or somebody like him, waiting in the wings to then unite all the white people into their fascist movement. Because all of these agitations have been deliberately caused to bring some supreme fascist dictator to power, white fascist dictator to power. By the way, he's a Protestant, so we'll make him a Protestant. So we can't really trace it to Rome, right? And then once he comes to power, then he'll implement all these Department of Homeland Security. Remembering, of course, that the Department of Homeland Security was created. It's a design by John C. Gannon. John C. Gannon is a knight of Malta. John C. Gannon was in the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. John C. Gannon was an adjunct professor at Georgetown University. John C. Gannon's a Jesuit, and he created the Department of Homeland Security, which I call the Department of Homeland Security. So yeah,
go ahead.
So this is what I see with this George Allen, and that was an article that I worked on, and then I just finished one on Tim Russert yesterday.
Yeah, I want to touch on Russert, but first just let me mention this. When you're doing your research out there, listeners, start at Georgetown. Start looking at a guy named Edmund Walsh, Father Edmund Walsh, and then go to Eric's book and start putting the dots together regarding all the people that have followed that man and the connections to them. You're going to be astounded how powerful these people are behind the scenes, and how no one in America knows about it, and the news media doesn't want to cover it, and the reason is they protect Rome as well, and they protect the Knights of Malta because many of the top media people are involved in the same organizations, right, Eric?
That's right. Henry Luce, the father of the Gannett newspapers and Time Life, he's a Knight of Malta. Cardinal Spellman's intimate friend. Remember, the press center of this country is Rockefeller Center, across the street from St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York. The CIA is there. The CFR is there. And whatever comes out of that's run by the Knights of Malta and is facilitating the purposes of the Papacy, which is headquartered at St. Patrick's Cathedral, where the Knights of Malta are headquartered. So that is how we understand that. Jesuit Edmund Walsh, he himself was a Knight of Malta.
Yeah.
So they're organizing the press, and they're orchestrating everything. And anybody that gets in their way, like Tim Russert, who was trained by Jesuit at Canisius High School in Buffalo, New York. He was trained by Jesuits at John Carroll University in Cleveland, who was the personal gopher, the helper for Patrick Moynihan, that Jesuit, that U.S. Senator out of New York, who was a Fordham visiting lecturer, and he was also part of the cover-up in the JFK assassination. Tim Russert was absolutely in the Jesuit order's back pocket. They made him and created him, but when he started to go against the story of 9/11, and when he started to infer that it was an inside job on June 1st, 2008, when he was interviewing McClellan, Bush's White House press secretary, 12 days later he was dead.
Right, and let's fill in those 12 days. Now we know that Russert also was one. He was a Meet the Press Sunday broadcaster, right? He had a big show. I'm not sure if it was Meet the Press. It was one of those Sunday shows.
Meet the Press.
Yeah, and so he was a very high profile figure in the media, working for NBC. Comes out of Jesuit University, has ties to Moynihan, like you said. And then begins to look into 9/11 and starts to get those broadcasts out about the possibility of it being an inside job. But he also starts interviewing Bush and Kerry regarding their skull and bones connections.
That's right.
And and on this radio station, you hear his voice most every day. Is saying over and over again, well, what does that mean for America? And Bush says, I have whatever Bush says. So he then, after that occurs, Now he's talking about 9/11 as an inside job. He takes a trip to Rome. Unbeknownst to many people, he was in Rome just prior to his heart attack.
Right.
Supposedly, I believe at his son's graduation or something, but fill in the dots there for us.
Yeah, it was a celebration for his son's graduation from Boston College, Jesuit Boston College, probably the second most powerful and largest Jesuit university in the country. And he was there for his celebration, and what does he do? He has an audience with Pope Benedict XVI. He leaves Rome, he comes back to the U.S., and his wife and his son stay in Rome. I find that intriguing.
I find that very interesting, yeah.
And then not long after, he supposedly collapsed on the floor at NBC News there, which appears to me that he is in cup. And that's pursuant to the Jesuit oath of the fourth vow. Someone gave him a cup of coffee, and that was his last cup of coffee.
And strange things, no autopsy, right?
No autopsy. I have a whole list of anomalies on my site there for review. There's no autopsy. We don't even know the doctor's name who gave the autopsy. So it's a complete cover-up in his murder, and nobody's talking about it. And obviously the Jesuit hand's in it because he attacked the Iraqi war. He didn't want the war in Iraq. He mentioned or tried to lead on with the idea that it was a inside job of 9/11. Remember, they got rid of Lou Dobbs. They fired him. They got rid of Montel Williams because of his position on the Iraqi war. All these people that are against the Iraqi war and maintaining that 9/11 is an inside job have no voice whatsoever in the national press, and some of them are relieved and others will be killed.
Right, and this shows you they'll kill their own because they created Russert, then thought he was a loose cannon. They had to get rid of him, right?
That's right, just like Kennedy.
And then if you look at all the reports, they eulogize him as if he was such a great man, and as if he was always. They start talking about his strong Catholic roots and how he loved the papacy.
Right. And the other thing now just occurred to me is that if anybody starts to get on the thought that he was murdered, why, it was Skull and Bones that did it. That Protestant operation, they did it. It wasn't the Jesuits. Failing to realize that the Jesuit William F. Buckley was Skull and Bones, Knight of Malta, and a host of other member of knighthoods.
Yeah, I mean, that opens up the door to, we don't have to, on another show, we'll get into it again, the connection between Freemasonry and the papacy, and how they use Freemasonry as basically the Protestant arm in this country. Just in 30 seconds, how important is that?
Very important. That'll open up a lot of understanding, like J. Edgar Hoover.
Okay. Well, listen, Eric, I want to thank you for being on the show. I recommend, what time's your broadcast this afternoon? Tell people about it.
It's 5 to 6, and I'm going to have part 3 with our brother Marco Ponzi. I think you'll enjoy it concerning the space alien deception invasion. Yeah.
Okay, that's great, Eric. Thanks for being on the show, and stay tuned to Eric's show this afternoon on Liberty Radio. Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, that was Eric Jon Phelps. Get his book, VaticanAssassins.org. And stay tuned for Tom Fress's show called Inquisition Update. You're listening to LibertyRadioLive.com. This is the Investigative Journal. Good morning.
If you'd like to get a copy of this program, you may subscribe at LibertyRadioLive.com for only $45 a month, and you'll receive an MP3 CD weekly of all the First Amendment Rights Media Group programs. As a bonus, we'll send you a password for our audio archives online. That's a $15 value. Or you can request any month of any program